5 years ago, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that the government could take away your home, your business, or your farm and give it to someone else for their private gain. But thankfully, that ruling in Kelo v. City of New London wasn't the end of the story. It was only the start of a national campaign against eminent domain abuse.
Kelo is one of the most universally despised Supreme Court decisions in our nation's history. And opposition to Kelo cuts across the usual divides you hear about in America today. And I think it's only a small exaggeration to say that about the only people who support Kelo are those who stand to benefit from eminent domain abuse: politicians, developers, and central planners.
In the 5 years since the decision, there has been an unprecedented backlash against it. Politicians and business interests may have won the battle, but they lost the war.
Less than a week after Kelo came down, the Institute for Justice launched our Hands Off My Home campaign. We were determined to translate the outrage that swept the nation after Kelo into meaningful reform in legislatures, courts, and communities across the nation where private property was being threatened by eminent domain abuse.
The results have been striking. So far, 4 state Supreme Courts have rejected the Kelo case, while another 4 have recognized greater protections for property owners facing eminent domain abuse. Moreover, 43 states have responded to Kelo with legal change, including both legislation and amendments to state constitutions.
Of the 43 states that changed their laws, at least 35 now prohibit the kind of takings used in Kelo. More than half the states went even further and reformed their laws so that cities can't label ordinary areas as blighted and then use that as an excuse to take someone's property and give it to another private party.
In addition to the successful court challenges and legislative changes, grassroots activists emboldened by the Kelo backlash have successfully fought back against projects that abuse eminent domain.
Before Kelo, it was impossible to defeat wealthy developers and their politician friends. But in just the 5 years since Kelo, we've seen 44 eminent domain abuse projects defeated at the grassroots.
Meanwhile, in New London, the Fort Trumbull project has been a total failure. After spending more than $80 million in taxpayer money, there has been no new construction whatsoever, and the area that was once a vibrant, close-knit neighborhood is now a barren field filled with demolition debris and home only to feral cats. To add insult to injury, in November 2009, Pfizer, the linchpin of the whole development project, announced it was closing its research facility next to Fort Trumbull and leaving New London for good, just as its tax abatements are about to expire. To be sure, challenges with eminent domain abuse remain. Weak state reforms must be strengthened, and the battle must continue in certain states, like New York, that have refused to reform their laws. But for Suzette Kelo and her neighbors, even though their neighborhood was lost, they know that their battle was not in vain. And Suzette's little pink house, where this all began, still stands now in a neighborhood about a mile away from Fort Trumbull. Like Betsy Ross's house in Philadelphia and Paul Revere's home in Boston, Suzette Kelo's pink cottage stands as a monument to her and her neighbor's struggle, one that has changed this nation for the better.